Hiya sends out the hounds. Here's a look at the Hiya Toys Predators Exquisite Mini Predator Hounds. Exquisite Mini is a new standard setting series for 1/18th scale, featuring super articulation action figures under Hiya Toys. Before we join in on the hunt, let's say the first thing we do is actually measure off how big the Predator Hounds actually are. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank the folks over at Hiya Toys that provided the sample of the Predator's Exquisite Mini Predator Hound that we could have a look at in this review. Taking the tape measure now, I'm going to go past the point of its back, simply just because it's got all these extra spikes there as well. I'm going to take it right to the very top of those spikes, revealing that the Predator Hounds are 2.5 inches tall. Switching that over to centimeters, the figures stand 0.06 or 6 centimeters tall. For some scale comparisons, let's bring in one of the other Exquisite Mini Predators that Hiya Toys have produced. I know that's not Tracker Predator. Tracker Predator would have made much more logical sense to use as the comparison, because after all, Tracker Predator used the Predator Hounds in the movie Predators. Unfortunately, though, at the time of shooting this video, I'm not really sure where I've put the Tracker Predator. Leave it with me, and if I do happen to find the figure somewhere sitting, I'm sure it's somewhere in a tote, I'll do a follow-up video and do comparisons with the Tracker Predator and then the Predator Hounds also released by Hiya Toys. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and have a look at the Predator Hounds. I can't tell you how excited I was to find out that Hiya Toys were finally going to give us Predator Hounds. I think even in the review of the Tracker Predator, if we go that far back, I said in that video, I hope that at some point they'll consider the idea of doing the Predator Hounds as well. Hounds, plural, because after all, you are going to be getting 2 of them in this set. The Predator Hounds are different from one another, so if while looking at them you may think to yourself that they are exactly the same and we just simply got 2 of them packed together, you couldn't be further from the truth, my friend. Even though the bodies are somewhat the same, I think the placement of the spikes are a little bit different. But one thing that does change between the 2 is that their mouths are different. One is open, quite a bit open. It looks like he's stretching for a yawn, and then the other one has a mouth slightly more closed. Other than that, though, the paint as well as the sculpting of the bodies seem roughly about the same. I love the fact, though, that we do get variations to the heads, though. I mean, I would be fine even if we had just gotten, say, this Predator Hound times 2. But the idea, though, that Hiya Toys actually gave us 2 variations, 2 different-looking Predator Hounds, is really, really cool. And I'm so glad that they actually did do that. Why don't we actually just put this one down for the time being? We'll look at this one up close and personal. I'm not sure how close you really want to get to a Predator Hound, but we'll do our best. We'll do our best. The detailing for this alien life canine definitely does look pretty neat. When you get a closer look at the teeth, the fact that they then went in there and sculpted in all those small little fangs is a nice little touch. The bottom fangs longer than the ones along the top, and even the interior of the mouth gets a nice slick coat of this dark plum purple. Ooh, that looks nice. You can see the sides of the eyes are kind of hard to make out, simply just because they're so dark, and the rest of the body is so dark, this dark forest green, that the eyes are a little harder to make out. It also happens to be the case that he's got all these extra spikes sticking out. I really like the design of the Predator Hounds. I liked it a lot more than the Predator dogs that were in The Predator. I thought those things looked ridiculous, but the Predator Hounds are really terrifying things to see on screen. These things running along the ground, coming to hunt you down. It is, again, a very scary looking sight. Now, when it comes to these articulations on these figures, I guess we could talk about that quickly right now, because there's very limited amounts of posability on these figures. The heads rotate back and forth. It doesn't seem like they're actually on ball joints. It seems like they're just straight swivels. And then the front legs and the hind legs also have just straight swivels as well. Now, the Exquisite Minis are normally known for super articulated 3 3/4 inch figures. And I certainly don't fault the fact that they went with a more simple looking posability on these figures. I don't know if I would want necessarily posable areas on its legs, for example. If you had hinges there, hinges on the hind legs, I feel like that could be something that get loose over time. at least by limiting what you could do with these figures when it comes to their posability, I feel like you're going to get at least a good-looking Predator Hound with not all the problems and hassles I think that would come with having all of these points being articulated. So again, I'm not bothered by the fact that they limited the posability on these figures. Talking a little bit about the spikes, I've already mentioned again the fact that they've got some spikes sticking out from the front, sort of like tusks sticking out from the front of their face, and it's got a couple on the top there as well. These are somewhat thick plastic. They have a little bit of soft give to them, but they're pretty dense material plastic that they end up using, and they're, as you can see, sticking out from the tops of its spine. Looking at the underbody quickly, some of the underbody kind of reminds me of an alligator, especially this little area right here. Kind of looks a little more like alligator skin. And on the inside, you can see the pressed in, it says Hiya Toys there as well, 20 CF, whatever that may be. So that's that one. And we can go ahead and pick up the other one, which really isn't that much different at all. Other than, again, the open mouth idea. This one is showing off a lot more of the inside of its mouth with a very more visible tongue that you can also see there as well. The tusks, as well as the rest of the spikes, I don't think, again, is really that different from one to the other. And some of them are a little softer. I mean, I don't want to say that they're all hard plastic. More the shorter ones are a harder plastic. But there is still give to these. So it's not, you know, it's not the kind of plastic that would be brittle and more susceptible to breaking. Again, on the posability end of things, this one doesn't do anything different than the other one. Has the straight swivels and forward and back on the hind legs, front legs, and then, of course, the articulation on the mouth, on the head. A little harder to get to this one, simply just because his mouth is a little bit more opened. But it does have just a regular swivel back and forth. Again, not disappointed by that. I really would want to have just these Predator Hounds being put on display with the eventual finding of the tracker Predator. Not really disappointed at all, the fact that they are limited when it comes to their posability. And again, when you have two of these together and eventually find yourself, or if you eventually pick yourself up the tracker Predator after picking up these ones, will that not look for a very cool looking display? The Predator standing proudly with his two canine or somewhat canine dogs standing on either side of him. In preparation for this review, I did spend some necessary time trying to track down the tracker Predator. Somewhat ironic the fact that the one I had to go looking for was called Tracker Predator, but unfortunately at the time of shooting this review I couldn't wait any longer because I was super excited to opened up the Predator Hounds and have a look at them, that the Tracker Predator's whereabouts will have to wait for the time being. Leave it with me though, as I always say to myself and say to you the viewing audience, leave it with me. Because even at one point I had put them away just to free up space. Now that I have the Predator Hounds in possession, I will most definitely be tracking down the Tracker Predator and putting him on display with the dogs, as it should have been right from day one. The Predator Hounds, though limited when it comes to their posability, make up for it in fantastic looking detailing, looking terrifying the way that they looked in the original Predators film. No, not that abomination, the Predator with those Predator dogs. That thing was ridiculous. But the Predator Hounds, though, were scary to see on screen. These moving things so low to the ground with these spikes sticking up. I think Hiya Toys have done a fantastic job of recreating them with a smaller scale. And does the posability or lack thereof bother me at all? Not whatsoever. Again, I would rather have these figures being able to stand on their own than having them with loose ankles or loose knees, or what the equivalent would be for a Predator Hound. I certainly don't want to have these things flopping or falling over. I'm not going to have that because they limited the posability on that. And in the case of the Predator Hounds, I think it was a very good, smart idea on Hiya's part to limit the posability when it came to these Predator Hounds. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Predator Hounds. And a big thank you to the folks over at Hiya Toys that provided the sample of the Predator Hound. Even though technically the packaging says Predator Hound, clearly we're looking at the pluralized version of that. Probably should have been called Predator Hounds. Either way, if you are new to this channel and enjoying all the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting the subscribe button down below and turning the bell notification on. And maybe perhaps as a video question that we can add on to this video, for your video question for today, which Predator accompanying creature do you prefer the most? The Predator Hounds or those stupid looking Predator dogs from the Predator? I always like reading your comments down below. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. We're also going to be looking at some more Hiya toy releases. So if that's the thing that you guys like to come to this channel for, keep your peepers peeled, your Predator peepers peeled, because there's definitely going to be a lot more Hiya toy reviews lined up and coming your way. And also be sure that when you're wrapping up this review, that you check out my Hiya Toys playlist that will cover off everything that I've looked at, including the tracker Predator, which I have to track down. I find that so ironic. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.